topic. The temptation of YOSEF. The story is told in the Gemara, and it's very fascinating. So I think I want to go into that. But the reason why I got my attention directed towards this is because Rabbi Boruch Merkur posted another amazing, good morning. He posted an amazing teaching. Good morning. Hey, good morning, everyone. He posted an amazing teaching that pertains to YOSEF at his most challenging moment. So we'll get into that story, but I just want to read to you first what it says in this teaching of the Alter Rebbe. Okay? So I translated it. I'm just going to read it. I got enough, I got all this Wi-Fi problems, very low Wi-Fi here. So I just hope it manages to stay live. But I just want to read it because I spent time translating this. And I just did it yesterday, so it's very fresh. Fire from his fingertip, I titled it. The power of sublimating desire. One's principal Torah study should be for God's sake and not for oneself. For when Torah, okay, it's speaking about here the answer of what's going to be the question. Okay, how do you perfect yourself? And we're going to see in areas that have to do with surviving temptation. The advice given here is that you have to learn Torah for God's sake. So you have a relationship with God that's dependent on your ability to understand Him through the Torah. If you're a man, if you're a woman, I think it's completely different. But someone's good, and we need an expert on that topic. Maybe the women are the experts on that topic. They should know firsthand. So here the advice, at least for men, and obviously an aspect of this applies to women too, if not directly to them as well. So if you learn for God's sake, that will give you strength to overcome the challenge that we're going to see. It's going to talk about. It quotes a verse, Vayafaizu Zraya Yadav. It's an incredible verse in Bereshis, I think it's when Yaakov is blessing the tribe of YOSEF. I have translations here. Okay, what did I use? And the arm of his hands were made supple, okay? That has nothing to do with the way, we're going to have to see what that means. Maybe it's related. No, it is. The Gemara explains this verse to mean that he dug his hands into the ground. Okay, so this is the interpretation of that verse, the way the Gemara sees it. Now you got to remember where YOSEF was. He was in a palatial suite. He was in a very fine building, I'm sure, because he went home to do his work on the day where everyone else was celebrating. They were all on vacation, right? And he goes home to do his work. Rav and Shmuel, I think, is the machlokes speaking. Rav says, or one of them says, that he went to do his malacha. He went back just to do work. He didn't want to partake in a non-Jewish festival. And I think Shmuel, the other one, says that no, he went to be with Ashes Potiphar, his captor's wife, who was supposed to be fantastic and seductive, and poured all of her charms on this one moment that she has alone with YOSEF. They had other moments, but they were completely alone. There were no chance for them to have any concerns. So, I don't want to get too much into the story now because I have all the sources for that referenced here. We might as well read that inside when we get there. But I just want to set up this idea describing of how his fingers dug into the ground. Okay? Try and get that image, because where were they? Were they standing outside? Maybe they were in an orchard outside. It's more likely that they were inside, probably in a private chamber, because if you see what happened, and according to Rashi, and some other Meforshim actually that describe the way Eshes Potiphar's wife sort of shows off her seduction of YOSEF to her husband to sort of justify his incarceration, because they threw YOSEF in prison, obviously. This whole story, because I don't know, you probably know some of the story. I'm not giving you all the details, but in that scenario, Rashi describes the way that she was taunting him, was saying what she did with him. So in other words, it did get very advanced, at least according to one range of thought. At least the Pshuta Shalom. He was not outside probably in the field where he could just dig his fingers into the ground. He broke through marble. Okay? If you learn Midrashim on the story in Bereshis, this story as well probably, but I know from others, like when Yehuda stands up to YOSEF, like that story, and Menashe gets in the way, and there's this whole fight. It says wild things, okay? Like fantastical things about what their showdown. So the way the Medrash wants you, or the sages want us to envision it, very grandiose room that probably had hard floors. His fingers went through the floor into the ground to show you what he did to fight off what was about to happen. His body was overcome with... Okay, now why? My question is this, and this is why I find it fascinating. A few things. How could a tzaddik be compelled by the seduction of Eshes Potiphar? She was a married woman. It was forbidden to have adulterous relationships to Bnei Noach, to all humanity. They were forbidden adultery. So how could you even tempt a tzaddik? How could you tempt him? It says that a tzaddik despises evil. If it was evil, he would have hated it. There was obviously something that was beyond the evil component, the way we see it as like, you're going to try and seduce one of the most holy people that ever was. YOSEF at tzaddik. How many people do you call tzaddik? Mordechai at tzaddik, YOSEF at tzaddik. I think that's it. No, you don't call anyone a tzaddik. YOSEF a tzaddik. Tzaddik is Seid Eilam. He's the Yesod, the foundation. Comes from this. Like the whole Jewish mentality is you have to combat, you have to ward off, combat, and ultimately to harness the energy of the Yetzer Hara. The evil inclination. That is our fuel, and that's our main focus of combat. Okay, it's much more speaking to the more conqueror gender, which is men. It's more, I think. Tell him. I mean, the answer is pretty obvious. You should type it in right now, right? What could compel him to be attracted to this woman who represented to him something evil and therefore ugly and disgusting? But we know that the story of Yehuda and Tamar is kill of YOSEF, because as YOSEF was going to be, right? It says a bear has fat all over its body. It's all about pleasure and the desire, and then the fierceness of that. She was the bear. Eshes Potiphar was the bear, trying to dig her claws into this YOSEF, this holy person. So what could have attracted him towards her if it's evil? Rashi tells you. He says that she, like Tamar, who knew that she wanted to have greatness come through her, to be sire, to be the mother of royalty. That is supposed to be something that you desire, to be the mother of royalty, to bring royalty into the world, so that your attraction to something is for holiness. She wanted to bring the Malchus of Hashem into the world. So her whole desire, which led to a not so typical romance, was seen as her merit, and she ended up being mother to a nation of kings. Mashiach comes from that. So the story of YOSEF follows or precedes that to teach us that she too, Eshes Potiphar, had good intentions, just like Tamar had good intentions. Why? What was her good intentions? She also wanted to be mother of kingship. Royalty, she should be the mother of royalty. She also wanted that. Malchus beis Yosef, Mashiach ben Yosef. She saw, right? She was very wise. Okay, we call it astrology. But it's a type of wisdom to see the nailad. We know that the raibid, I described that last week. The raibid's a position that hashgacha pratis is like a wise man, seeing how something stems from something else. You could just see the causal relationship and what's going to come out. So you don't understand astrology. I'm trying to give you another way to look at it based on this raibid. So she, in her wisdom, she saw that she was destined to be the mother of kings. She misunderstood. It's not a wholly pure vision, astrology, or that type of wisdom. God has the last laugh, right? God said that, yes, you are destined to be the mother of kings, but not through you. Through your adopted daughter. Now I'm going to get into a bit of a speculative area, and I know I'm jumping around, and this is my own speculation. I'm going to put together a few things that I've heard, if I can do this. Who did YOSEF marry? How did Eshes Potiphar, Shalom, how did Eshes Potiphar manifest or realize being the mother of kings? It wasn't through her, it was through her adopted daughter. Who was her adopted daughter? This is what I understand. I don't know, I didn't see this directly, but someone correct me if I'm wrong. Her adopted daughter was Dinah's daughter. I don't know how Dinah's daughter got from way far away from Shechem to Eretz Canaan, wherever, and now she went into Mitzrayim also. Why? The way I understand it, firstly, the whole story of Dinah is unbelievable. I don't know if I have time. I have no excuse. Do I have bandwidth? Do I have your attention enough to tell the whole story? It's fascinating. It's amazing. Dinah was a Yetzanis. The Rebbe has an amazing sikha on this. What does it mean she was a Yetzanis? She was, it says, Kol Kvuda Bas Melech Pnima. The whole honor of a princess is inward, inside, but Dinah, and therefore she just had to be in the scene. She had to be part of the spectacle. The Rebbe interprets it completely differently. Dinah was like her mother Leah, they were Yetzanis. What was Leah's Yetzanis? What was her going out? Why was she so outgoing? She wasn't she went out to greet her husband on the night when Rachel was supposed to be with him. She goes out to greet him. She's called the Yetzanis because of that. And Dinah, like mother, like daughter. Dinah was called the Yetzanis because she went out to mingle with the daughters of Shechem. Why was she doing that? The Rebbe says, she's not a tzaddikus in pelts. She's not this woman who wears a fur coat and all about herself, keeping the warmth within. She lights a fire where she goes. She lights a fire and she illuminates other neshamas. That's what Dinah was, the Yitzanis. What was Leah's Yitzanis? She wanted to be with her husband. What could be more worthy than that? And then, in a more finite, focused approach, the daughter is always the more focused, more tangible. The child offspring always represents something more tangible and less abstract. Dinah was trying to do mitzvahim, says the Rebbe. She was campaigning to bring godliness amongst the daughters of Shechem. And that led to her punishment. Interestingly, I'm jumping back and I realize YOSEF was also punished for something. What did he do wrong? I know I haven't finished the story about the fascinating story of who YOSEF married, the way I understand it. Okay, I'm going to have to jump back to that. I want to tell the story the way I see it. It's fantastic. Who is YOSEF's wife? He married Dinah's daughter. How did Dinah have a daughter? She was kidnapped and humbled and impregnated with a daughter rather, that she would refuse to leave with her brothers, Shimon and Levi, because she felt humiliated that she has a child and no father. They killed her husband. And how's she going to face life? So Shimon promised that means it's his sister. I don't think, it says he promises to marry her. He says he's going to marry her. I don't know if he actually did. How is YOSEF, who lives in Egypt, hundreds of miles away or wherever, and how is he going to get a bride? Dinah had a daughter who Shimon promised that he's going to help raise. Or let's interpret it that way. Somehow and I don't know how she left her parents, but she ends up in Mitzrayim. What was the blessing that YOSEF was going to have all these, when he parades around Mitzrayim? He says he was absolutely gorgeous, magnificent, and he dressed that way, and he conducted himself that way, and he had a magnificent parade. And he got a blessing, from the fact that he stood up to prevent Asa from seeing his mother. He got this blessing that later on in his life, it was realized later when he was second to the king, viceroy of the superpower of the world. He was given a reward that the girls would climb up walls to behold him. So what kind of blessing is that for a tzaddik? And you could see that's the same thing as the challenge later with Ashes Potiphar. It's the same thing. But why was this then a blessing for him that girls are going to be totally in awe of him? Like Beatlemania. Okay, look at those videos and try and understand. I cannot understand Beatlemania. That to me is beyond, I'm not feminine enough to understand how a girl can just freak out when she sees a guy with a funny haircut. I just don't get that. If someone understands that, please type it in. It would be a real insight to me. But anyways, that's the way they were for YOSEF. Because YOSEF did something real for the world. Okay, they changed some aspects of the world. But YOSEF, the whole world was dependent on him. That's how incredible. And he was the richest person that ever lived. Okay? More than Shlomo. He was the most wealthy person that ever lived. YOSEF. And Yisoid, okay? So what was I just speaking about? I was giving him... Okay, so what's the blessing in having girls being Beatlemania for him? Okay, someone should remind me to use that as a subtitle. Beatlemania. He found his shidduch that way. Oh my goodness, think about it. This is the way I understand it. This is the way I was told. I know the kids always come home and they tell you everything. That's how you find out. You read your kids a story. So I don't know. Someone back me up with sources. I don't have sources for this. I know it's midrashim. I don't know 100% if I'm saying it right. I'm pretty sure. Dinah's daughter was amongst the girls who went crazy to see YOSEF and climbed walls. She was the one that climbed the wall. She threw a medallion that I don't know how she acquired it, but it's something that I think it was actually the ox that ended up being what raises him up from the Nile. He was buried under the Nile. Okay, it's a whole story. She throws that out from the, what do you call it? The bleachers. She's a fan. She throws it from the bleachers, from the top of the wall. This is the way I see it. This medallion, proving that she's Jewish. It catches YOSEF's attention, and he gets it. I mean, he carries that with him all the way to his death and beyond. And that was what led to the, what is it? That was thrown to make the egel. That was thrown into the smelting pot. Oh my goodness. And the egel comes out of this. So there's so much attached to that. So much at stake. With this symbol, this medallion, that the way I understand it, Dinah's daughter throws to get YOSEF's attention, and YOSEF marries her, and she's adopted by Ashes Potiphar, and Potiphar, what's his name? Para? He had another name. He lusted YOSEF. Check this out, okay? I'm going to get sidetracked, I realize, but he lusted YOSEF, so what happens? YOSEF, obviously, he's the great-granddaughter of Sari Menu. If someone desires you inappropriately, what happens? He had an angel that castrated him, okay? Also like Sari Menu. It affected the same area. YOSEF Tzadik. Yeah, YOSEF Tzadik Yisayid Olam, he had this power that if you're going to be inappropriate around him, he had an angel that could castrate you, take away all your power, right? That's what it represents. So what happens to Ishas Peitifar? Where's his legions then? What happens then? The bear is so threatening all of a sudden. Yeah, what about the bear's husband? You weren't worried about him. He was castrated at a blink of his eye. I don't know, I just made that part up. But he was castrated. Okay, that much I know. So, where was the angel to protect him from Ishas Peitifar? Where was that angel? Because there was some aspect of Kedusha here. Okay, I want to tell the story. There's a lot here. This is a fantastic story, but I really think that this teaching of the Alter Rebbe that Rabbi Markel posted, it's very chashuv, it's very geschmack. I'm just trying to build up the scene around it and some of the ideas. I referenced a lot of Gemaras on this and Psukim. They're fantastic, they're really amazing, but to do that properly, maybe we'll have time, we'll see. 10:13 on vacation time, that's probably like 8:30. We're good, right? Beechwood, Ohio, welcome. So did I tell the whole background enough? Let me just think. Did we say enough about the Yitzanis part, the Dina thing? Oh my goodness. So what gave rise from her being Yitzanis? She ended up having a child. Her daughter was Jewish because royalties passed through the mother. Right? So from being Yitzanis, what the Rebbe says is about reaching out to others, not just being this tzaddik and pelts, this aloof person, but reaching out and caring about other people, to want to bring them to understand the truth also, to go against all your shyness and come out of yourself, to bring goodness into the world against all the cynicism, which tries to tell you, shut up. I'm going to just be an idiot and talk like an idiot the whole day around you, and I don't care. So you have to have your lions at your side. Hashem is at our right hand, our right arm, right? So do we set this up enough? Let's go. Maybe we should go weiter now. We'll probably jump around. We'll come back maybe. Oh, because I wanted to say a few things. Because I touched on this difference of opinion, the Talmudic debate about whether he went back. YOSEF Tzadik, did he go back just innocently? Or did he go back with intent to be seduced? I think that's what's at stake here. And I think that because you could ask yourself, who cares? Why are you talking about that? What's the nafkamina? What's this relevance in terms of our behavior? How's it going to affect us? Or our approach, our understanding, our mindset? And I think that if we develop this through what the sources from the Alter Rebbe here, we're going to shed some light on it and maybe come up with a difference in opinion here that could lead to a nafkamina, some difference, some real approach difference. And sometimes you get this and you're like, okay, are animals going to exist in the future to come, or are they going to be declawed in the future to come? And it's a machlokes. And it happens to be, the Rebbe says that it's paskin la'alacha, according to Reb Shimon, that there's going to be wild animals and they're going to be tame. We're not going to kill the beast within entirely. We're going to harness that energy. So the Rebbe, that's an incredible thing. I think I spoke about that once or twice. So, similarly here, I think there's going to be a difference revealed in their approaches. These two opinions about whether his intent was to be seduced or not, whether he's innocent and just went to do his work at home. Because I think that there's... Okay, we'll see how that comes out. So let's go back into this teaching, okay? The Gemara explains this verse to mean that he dug his hands into the ground and semen emitted from between his fingertips. The word here, between, bothers me a lot, okay? And it resonates in with another use of the word between that we'll see, okay? It's quoted here that I'm making a link between the two words because the word doesn't make sense. It should be that it came out of his fingernails. But what does it mean from between his fingernails? And I'm making a drush in here that I haven't really totally fathomed. Maybe it will evolve as we speak, okay? But I'm not going to say it yet. I want to finish reading this a little bit more. So it says between his fingernails. It should say from his fingernails or from his fingertips. What does it mean between? Okay, I think this is fascinating. But we'll see if it resonates if we keep going. The emission embodied how? Through self-serving Torah study, because we spoke about that before, earlier today. That's the whole weakness here is associated, whether you're trying to increase yourself for your self-aggrandizement or to please God. I want to make myself a better person, have more impact, and if I'm like Dinam and I'm Yitzanis and I'm involved with other people, that should be for God's purpose, not for my self-aggrandizement. Oh, and that reminds me again of the whole story of Dina's daughter throwing the medallion. I want to make sure I finish that story. So I think that's how Eshes Potiphar's wife's destiny was lived through her adopted daughter, Dina's daughter. And that's why there was some holiness attributed to this. And that's why his angel did not stop Eshes Potiphar's attack. He had to do it himself because there was some semblance of Kedusha associated with it. And we'll see what he accomplished through it. When I read Fighter, I don't know, I keep getting sidetracked. But I thought there's some details here. I hate when I miss the details that I wanted to bring out because afterwards it's not quite as geschmack. It's better in sequence. The emission embodied how through the Supernal Will is manifest in the fingernails. Okay, the fingernails represents the most superfluous part of a person. So the superfluous part of us is when we do things for ourselves. That's the fingernails. The correction of this emission through his 10 fingers, YOSEF emitted 10 drops of semen from his fingers. Okay? Why? He had to fight off his desire that was so incredible that he had to dig his fingernails through the marble and through the earth in this rage of power to contain it. Okay, but still he emits seed, which is bizarre because he ended up losing 10 tribes because of that. He was destined to have 12 tribes. And he was punished by not having that. So what did he do wrong? He sublimated his entire desire. He did everything. It says that, in one commentary, I forget exactly who, it says that he did it to induce pain. I think it was the Ramban. He did it to induce pain and suffering, to take his mind off of the fact that his body was overcome with desire at that moment. So that the suffering would bring him back to focus on, I was once in a car crash on my birthday. I think I mentioned this once. And, I wasn't a religious person when I was about 17, 18 when it happened. But I cried out to God in that moment, I was totally fine. It was a miracle, bro. Thank God. Nothing happened to us. The car was demolished. We could have gone off the cliff even. It's crazy. But the barrier stopped us, so we're good. Thank God. So in those moments, you realize that there's a God, right? Certain moments. So YOSEF had to access that much energy to fight this off. It's a tremendous thing, but he's punished for it. So why? Why were you punished for something that you did good? So I think that's the machlekes there between these two Amoraim. One saying that he did it intentionally, he wanted to be seduced. And maybe that's how you therefore see that he was punished in this way. It led to something negative. Because he went. So what about the other one who said he didn't? He went there innocently. According to that opinion, I think you would have to say his only avera was that he allowed himself to have a physical desire. What else could he have done wrong according to that opinion? Why was he punished with this lost 10 tribes because of it? And that's the bear. The bear set his claws on him. Is the bear going to be declawed and exist, or annihilated completely? Maybe the two things are connected. Was his sin that he put himself in an inappropriate environment, that he's going to therefore be tempted, and therefore, even though he has the power to resist, it's not a worthy pursuit to put himself in that environment? He said, okay, he could be saying, maybe I'm just speculating now. He could be saying, you know what? He's such a tzaddik, he could put himself into an environment and elevate it. It's a great thing. He lost 10 tribes. His productive energy in the world was detracted from it. Such a tzaddik, why would he lose out? Okay, maybe we'll think about it a bit. Maybe we'll come back to that. I just want to finish reading this, okay? So we see that the correction of this emission from his fingertips was achieved through the 10 Martyrs. Their suffering resulted in, maybe this is a hint, okay, because later on, the same energy is playing out. Centuries later, in the Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Shmuel and all the great sages that were tortured and martyred, their suffering resulted in diminishing this shortcoming among the Jewish people. Now, I don't know if the word shortcoming here, or whatever the word in Hebrew is, equivalent. Okay, didn't say, I added that word probably, but it said it, right? And you have to figure out, so I put the word shortcoming. So I don't know if the shortcoming there refers to not learning Torah in it for lishma, for God's sake, or succumbing to temptation, or being exposed to temptation, the whole temptation thing. I don't know what it's referring to. It could be referring to either. Maybe it's the same idea. If you're learning for self-aggrandizement, isn't that the whole succumbing to temptation thing? It's like one and the same. It's not necessarily an argument there, but I'm not going to spend much time on that idea because I want to look more into that. What are the 10 Martyrs? They suffering diminished. Now we have more power to combat YOSEF's. They had to suffer for us to get some kind of power that YOSEF. Okay, so maybe that's the thing. It's like Nadav and Avihu. That before their time, it was permitted to do that. They were allowed to martyr themselves in ecstasy to God and give away their lives. Maybe something like that too. At YOSEF's time, it was okay. Does that make any sense? And then later on, it became bad, and like he became the example. Like David and Melech was an example for us to do tshuva from. Okay, I'm going to leave that thought for a second. Let me just read the rest. It's only one more paragraph. Thus, our sages say that when the angels protested, when the angels protested the creation of mankind, the angels came before God and said, "Don't create humanity." He extended his pinky finger. Oh, because they were questioning their worthiness in terms of fear of God. I don't know if it says that here. Maybe I forgot to translate those words. I don't know. Or maybe I looked it up in the source and that's what it says. No, it says years Adam. Okay, he figured towards them and consumed them. God extended and they burnt. What does that mean? But it says beinehem. Okay, let's get the Hebrew. Shekasha kitru amalachim al beyiras shemayim adam haishi etzbal tana b'neihem v'sarfam. The angels were accusing about the fear of man. He extended his little finger amongst them and burnt them up. Why does it say amongst them? It's the same term as we had before. Same term. When did we say it before? Okay, I can't find it right now. I remember that was one of my things I wanted to talk about. Let's just see. Okay, we'll have to, hopefully that will come back to me. So we see that he extends his pinky finger among them and they burnt up. And he interprets this, just to finish this off. His pinky finger refers to even the least accomplished Jew. It says here, Hakatan Sheb Yisrael. Okay, however you want to interpret that. The little one amongst the Jewish people. I said the least accomplished Jew. When extended towards the accusing angels, they are completely eviscerated, obliterated. Okay? Rabbi Merkur liked to sort of have this image resonate with the idea of there's a custom amongst the Jewish people to say Zesa Torah. That when the Torah goes up in the shul, the kids and everyone, I suppose, puts up their pinky finger and says, This is the Torah. But here it says that the Katan Sheb Yisrael, a child, he interprets. I think the simple meaning is the least accomplished Jew has this power to burn away accusing forces against them. So obviously you see here a connection. Because what's the connection between burning up angels and YOSEF emitting semen through his fingers? So you see the image of a finger here resonates again. Hashem extends his finger. It's an unusual term. Extend or hold out. He holds out his finger. Not a pointing finger so much as his little finger. So even with my little finger, it's like a gesture. Even with my little finger, which is the most unworthy Jew, quote unquote. Even that is precious to such an extent that any accusing forces are burnt up. Probably there's a hint. That is the energy that we have to tap into, that preciousness, to elevate this whole temptation of YOSEF, or any incidents that we might be put in. Probably the energy is to tap into with this idea of even the Katan Sheb Yisrael, to know who you are. Because I think to sort of delve into this topic and to sort of give proper advice, the focus has to be so much on the positive, because elsewise who would care? Another thing Rabbi Merkur posted from the Alter Rebbe again was that when a person is depressed, that's when he's subject to all the temptations and desires and lusts in the world. I also extend the word depressed, atzvos, I translate that to mean cynical. I feel cynicism is the same denuding of the Jewish man's power. To be cynical. To not embrace Torah Lishma. Okay? To do that, you have to just love God. You have to be this naive appearing person, this childlike person, and love Torah and cry when you see a new piece of Torah. You have to tap into that energy to overcome temptation. You have to focus on the positive aspect here rather than what most people do, which is tell them that they're going to go to this place and they're going to burn and all this. What's going to burn? Look at what the Torah says. What's going to burn when you overcome temptation? When you tap into this power? All the accusing angels. That question your Yiras Shamayim. You're going to question YOSEF Atzadik's Yiras Shamayim. Did he go back there intentionally? If he did, he had a good intent, and maybe he was wrong, and he was taught a lesson, but he had a good intent, okay? If Eishes Beitifara had a good intent, and Rashi's pointing out in Pshutit Shamikra, the simple interpretation of the Torah says that she did it L'Shem Shamayim. Can you imagine YOSEF Atzadik? You think he did it when the Torah says he did it intentionally? According to this Talmudic sage, we're going to say that means that he's, come on, I can't even say the words. YOSEF Atzadik. He thought he was doing something good. There's no question about it. He thought if he's going to battle with the serpent, he is going to take that kayach and make it soar. Incidentally, that is actually what it says, because I mentioned this before, but maybe we'll quote a few sources here that I selected, okay? It says, I'm not going to say that one yet. Maybe skip that one for now. Where does it say these? Oh, here. Oh, I can't find which one exactly I wanted. It says that the image of Yaakov appeared before him, and that's what allowed him to have the power to not sin and not succumb to this temptation. I'm still looking for it while I'm talking. He sees the image of his father, Yaakov, in the window. B'chalain, it says. I don't know where the words are. I can't find it. But it says chalin. In the window. Okay, I don't know what the significance of window is. But some okay, that's Mashiach's peering from out the cracks. You could have them. He's outside. He's a Yitzanis. He's outside. He's going out. He's reaching out to YOSEF. He's going into this very dire situation to save him. Well, how does it save him? He knew he had a father. He knew what his father looked like. So why does seeing the visage of Yaakov Avinu, who it says, by the way, that he had the same face as the first man, Adam HaRishon. But which attribute was Yaakov? Yaakov was Tiferes, beauty. So YOSEF, the Yesod, this temptation that comes out in your interaction, your relationships, Yesod, it's about a relationship. That's where his temptation is. That's where his power is also, the Yesod, Tzadik Yesod Olam. The foundation of the world. The foundation of Yiddishkeit, really. But you see that they're always like flirting with this idea of, is it inappropriate or not? So many stories, and particularly about bringing the soul of Mashiach into the world. Particularly about the trace the genealogy of Mashiach. I mean, Rabbi Y.Y. Jacobson does this, and he's got shiurim on this. It's incredible. I want to do it sometime, or just reference it more particularly, so you can get into that. It's incredible stuff. I think it's all tied in here. To see that this is the idea here. Okay, look what this verse refers to it. It says Rashi on the Bereshis, a pasuk. It says it's on the words Even Yisrael. It says Be'esan kashtay al kvishas yitzray be'eshes adeinav. He had the strength of the bow, which refers in the Gemara. Well, if we get to it, it's talking about his physical desire manifest in sort of a masculine way. That's the strength of the bow, the taut string of the bow. And also it says that resonates with the idea, okay, we'll see it later in the world. I don't have to say it's not my words, it's Rashi's words. The strength of the bow as being about the suppression. I don't like the word suppression here. I would like to say the sublimation. Okay, but here it emphasizes the idea that he conquered something. Suppression of the impulse with the wife of his master. And it calls it a bow because the seed shoots out like an arrow. Okay, so the reference here, the Torah uses the word. It's to teach something that is about strength and extending one's rule, one's influence. YOSEF sought to extend his influence in the world in some sense. Or maybe he wanted it more spiritual. He wanted to take that physical thing and make it spiritual. And that's what caused it not to be manifest in a very physical way, to have actual 10 more tribes than he would have had. He had 2, he should have had 12. Menashe's 10 children that he named after YOSEF, I think, were supposed to be 10 tribes, and then you'd still need one more. I think my math is right. He emitted seed, which represents the obliteration of a productive energy. He might have wanted to be more spiritual, but he wanted it to come out through his engagement with temptation and the physicality of the world. And how could that be possible? Only through the fact that she saw she was destined to be the mother of kings. She misunderstood, but it was her insight. What could she do? She did L'Shem Shemaim, Rashi says. That's what made it have the ability for it not to be obliterated by his angel that was protecting him even from her husband, who was much more powerful than her, physically at least. And he had no power over YOSEF. Nothing. Castrated completely. Why would Ashes Potiphar have any power? Because there's power in thinking you're doing something, L'Shem Shemaim. There's power in that. It might not be good, but there is definitely power in that. We have to make sure that we're doing L'Shem Shemaim. That's what we started this with, right? When you're learning, when you're getting close to God, when you're trying to make yourself greater, because the Torah makes a person greater, there's no question about it. When you devote yourself to something worthy, it's really the only worthy thing to. Okay, it's Torah mitzvahs. It's the same thing. That's our ability to connect to God. Have I taken enough of your attention? I'll stop here. Maybe just a few more of these sources that I quoted here. Okay, there's beautiful psukim. Okay, here's what it says. He saw the Yekne shel Aviv, the visage of his father. Okay, he became the shepherd of the Jewish people from this. So he also was rewarded. He was called tzaddik from this also. So he got rewards and punishments. What rewards would he have gotten? He probably would have gotten more spiritual rewards and less physical rewards. He lost the physical aspect, the shvatim. But what did he get? He became a shepherd. He became a leader. He became a leader because he immersed himself, according to one opinion. He did it on purpose. He put himself into this situation. So why would he be rewarded? Okay, he overcame it to a large degree. It wasn't his fault. Was it just because he allowed himself to have some, like according to the other opinion, that he didn't do intention? So why did it? Therefore, was he punished? Just the very fact that evil can have, not evil or physicality, can have some grasp on him. Was he punished for that itself? Tzaddik is supposed to be mayis bara. It says in Tanya, tzaddik v'ralei has some evil in him still that has not been elevated. That's why temptation has some. He doesn't despise it. He would be more so. So maybe at this point, YOSEF went from being a tzaddik v'ralei to a tzaddik v'tevlei. Can you say such a thing? Now he's transformed his evil entirely from this. And that's somehow represented in the fact that he became a shepherd of the Jewish people. That's compelling, maybe. He spiritualized himself through his engagement with the physicality and overcoming it, showing that he's a conqueror of it, and therefore you're worthy to be a leader. Not necessarily to have your greatness. I mean, Moshe Rabbeinu, interesting thing, his children. People ask me, what happened to his children? Maybe this is related. He had a more spiritual path. His emphasis was not on the home. He separated from Tzipora, much to her astonishment. And Miriam's astonishment, his sister, Moshe's sister. Why make yourself so aloof and so spiritual? But there's a purpose for that in this context. So YOSEF became at the level of... Moshe might have never had that problem. He was born a leader. He glowed when he was born. YOSEF was beautiful physically. He had this engagement with the physicality, which your sight is all about, really. You're engaging in the other. Anything other to you is your body. If you see yourself as I, whatever you say is outside of the I, it's the other, that is body. The feminine. The other. So I'm always fascinated how the feminine's consciousness is to, if I'm right, and they are the other incarnate. Does that make them the Shekhinah? And I got into this whole dark phoenix thing. Okay, so if you have the power to eviscerate the accusing forces, that's a real power. Is it a dark phoenix that emerges from fire, from this engagement with fire, with kindling, allowing his fire to be kindling and soaring from it? He lost out with the Shvatim. It's this very ambiguous, paradoxical thing that happens, or dichotomy that happens, that he became a shepherd of the Jewish people, but he lost more. So that's what I want to say before. Moshe's children did not become leaders. He devoted himself when he became a leader of the Jewish people. All the people become your children. People ask the Rebbe, why didn't you ever have children? He says, I don't have children. I think the Rebbetzin, his wife said that. All the Chassidim are his children. It's not an exclusive group. The Rebbe never excluded anybody. Okay, let's just see if there's any other sources that we want to read. Okay, here's the Gemara that we started with. God originally sought to create a person. He created one group of ministering angels. He said to them, if you agree, let us fashion a person in our image. The angels said before him, Master of the universe, what are the actions of this person you suggest to create? God said to them, his actions are such and such according to human nature. I guess that's when they perk up. The angel said before him, Master of the universe, what is a man that you are mindful of him, and the son of man that you think of him? What is man? That is a creature such as that is not worth creating. God outstretched his small finger among them and burned them with fire. And the same occurred with the second group of angels. The third group of angels that he asked said before him, Master of the universe, the first two groups who spoke their mind before you. What did they accomplish? The entire world is yours. Whatever you wish to do in your world, do. God then created the first person. There was the possibility of other. The Malachim are extension of spiritual forces. Directly. They're not a consciousness that senses their own independent existence. That's why they call it Yetzram. They have no choice. The finite conscious mind, even of a holy person who loves God, Yesh Misha Ayev, there's still an aspect of him that's an identity that's separate. The whole purpose of life is to make that progressively more expansive and ultimately infinite. When you set your course, your direction, your march, your journey on a certain direction, you're on a path that you'll never get to the end because the direction is the end. It's infinite, so you'll never, in every moment there's infinity. So you can realize that. Here I'm suggesting that there's tapping into forces that, okay, just to bring this down a little bit to earth, okay? Because we talked about a lot of things. I don't know if I got all my sources. I should have had more sources here because this is really compelling stuff. I don't know. I don't know what's more appealing to my audience is drushes or sources. So many people that are just saying sources. It's like, say one source more. My feeling, I don't know if I'd like people to express their opinion. My feeling is that because there's so many other people that are just source after source, just learn a Gemara inside, not really sink your teeth into it properly. That's my feeling. And I'm not saying that's about, like, I think you have to learn Be'iyu and you have to learn Begir, so you have to have all the approaches to learning. But there's a time in your day, I think that should be reserved for assimilating things. Really how do I relate to them? To me, that's when I'm on my bike. Or maybe when I'm speaking with you. I like to think it's more of a hisbaininus for me. That's what I use this for more. My preparation for davening, to think about something, to really bring it down. Okay, so that's really the same thing. Down, practically, how is this most relevant? How is this most relevant? What can we most gain from this is look at the motivating factors behind anything to do with this. Always was motivated by the desire to bring God's kingship into the world. I think that can allow a person to be guided in the right path. They have to draw on energies that probably supersede that to overcome. I mean, I'm not saying that, God forbid, you should put yourself in a position. You should always put yourself in an environment that you feel not influenced by your environment, that you're the master of your environment. And therefore, you know where to draw the line, but you don't put yourself in an environment. There's two opinions. He went there to do his work. He was innocent. He thought everyone would be at the celebration. Would he think he's going to encounter his Ashes Paitifar? She says she's sick. She couldn't go to the party. So did he know that she was going to make the same claim? So another approach is that, yeah, he anticipated that she'd do the same thing. And he went home to, or be with her. Which one exactly? So I'm suggesting that he made the mistake of thinking that it's a worthwhile, well, I don't know for sure if I could say it's a mistake, but there was positives and negatives that result. I suggest that The positive was more of a spiritual elevation, more leadership role, and the negative was less influence in terms of his personal. It's more of a rabbinical role than a kingly role. A kingly role meaning, in this sense, meaning more having a people, because he would have had more tribes. He would have had 10 more tribes. Oh, so why do we say B'neihem? Okay, I remember the connection. Okay, I'm glad I remember this. The same term, B'neihem. He extends his little finger, B'neihem. And where did it appear the second time? Oh my goodness, now it slipped my mind again. What's the other one? Among them. Oh my goodness. Oh, yes. And from, okay, it's obvious. From between his fingernails. It was 10 drops. So it's wrong. It's not talking between. It's not talking about between his fingers. What does it mean between his fingernails? That's like the same thing as saying between your fingers. There would be 8, not 10. But there was 10 shvatim he lost. So it means between his fingernails. It means between the space between his fingernails and his fingers. Okay? It came out from his core, okay? That's what the imagery here is, okay, in the simple sense. But why does it have to say, why is the image that way? I'm suggesting the link, because it uses the same word. I know that's a stretch. But it says that God extends his pinky finger. My smallest among my children. The most unworthy is the pinky finger of Hashem. And that could destroy any accusation. That shows how precious a Jew is. I think it's that preciousness, that's our power to overcome, to realize what we are to God, and therefore have a relationship with Hashem. And that's the basis, the foundation for all of our relationships, to determine the appropriateness of them. That the only real relationship is with Hashem. Okay, I use the proof saying that the relationship between the father and son, Avram and Yitzchak, was at a time defined by taking him up on an altar and binding him, to show that any relationship between people is only worthy in terms of how God defines it. True relationship. The only relationship, the yachid, the only our relationship with God, and therefore all expression and an extension of that. So when a sacrificial body, I don't know, that becomes the proper relationship with him at that moment. To the harm of everything that Avram stood for. Human sacrifice was against everything that he brought to the world. All of his work, effort would have been uprooted to show, I think, that God is the only relationship. You have your relationship with God, and that's expressed through, are you being appropriate with other people? So I think the energy that we have to tap into is to this realization how precious a Jew is to God. To see that we are in fact that nation, that kingly nation. And we have a spark of Mashiach in us. We have that holy spark that Tamar lusted, that Eshes Potiphar Lahavdil lusted. They had the L'Shem Shemayim because they wanted to be part of that narrative unfolding through personalities in this world. The motherhood, right? That's the aspect of motherhood, engendering that into the world. Bringing the spark of Mashiach into the world. I'm suggesting here that's the kavanah of the Eshes Potiphar, to elevate it. It's this idea of tapping into the idea of being part of Mashiach. She wanted to be a part of it in a very tangible way. Do you put your money behind it? Do you put your time behind it? She wanted to experience that, to be mothered, to have her body affected by it. We learned before, right, that a woman doesn't want her beauty to disintegrate with motherhood. But the Imahis had a tremendous desire for children. God said, nevertheless, it's more important that the Avais should be propelled forward and fueled by their beauty to bring the Kedusha into the world. So there's always this play of unremitted and unrealized desire in play with the idea of realized desire, the love of fire, the love of water, and the interplay between them. So when Sarah was begging for children, when Rachel was begging for children, when Rivka also didn't skip a generation. That was this type of yearning to be manifest, that not in a way of being aloof, but wanting to be a mother, bringing that to be the most tangible expression. I want to have children. I want to be a part of Mashiach's unfolding in a tangible way. I want it to be realized in my behavior, the most simplest things. Am I going to put myself in environments where I'm going to succumb? That is just stupid. Okay, you're not YOSEF Tzaddik, and if you are, even YOSEF Tzaddik had to sacrifice something to do it for his purpose, which was to assume the role of Roy Yisrael, shepherd of the Jewish people, to provide for the Jewish people, to realize something manifest in the physicality. Okay, that totally contradicts what I said. Which is why it became a temptation for him, because Eishes Peitifar was telling him, trust me, Yosef. I know that we're destined to be together. We're going to have a productive relationship. This is L'Shem Shemayim. Trust me. She was being sincere. That's what convinced Yosef. That's why the angel was called off, held at bay, and didn't castrate like Potiphar himself was castrated. Didn't cut off her power. Didn't cut off her ability to have connection to him. Why wasn't he Mayas Bara? Why didn't he despise the evil temptation? Because he heard the side of the story that there was some way to interpret that this is actually required of him. He was destined, but he had to have the faith to say, you know what, I don't see how there's going to be any Jewish woman that will all of a sudden appear to me in Egypt. So that's when the blessing that he got as a child to protect his mother, Rachel, from being captured by Esau, the dark forces. And the merit of that, later on, his faith would be answered. That he would find a Jewish woman in the impossible ervas haaretz of Egypt, the limitations and nakedness of the world. That's what he knew, that specifically, and then, I don't know if he knew specifically, but even there, in the nakedness of the world, in his encounters with Eshish Potiphar, were totally against his will. That's where he will find his Besherter and lead to 2 new Shvatim. With his soulmate, coming from the most unusual situation with Dinah and Potiphar. Because that's the way she had some grip on him. And the whole story unfolded because of that. He goes thrown in prison, he comes to the king. Then he rides his chariots. From the whole thing unfolded because of his conquering of his desire. And that realized the blessing that it was coming to him in reward for his protection of his mother. The concept of motherhood again. Don't set your eyes on my mother. The whole Indian of the whole concept of being productive in the world. Don't affect that. Yosef was all about business. He was a businessman, right? He wanted to make something in this world, and he did. But he brought Kedusha even there. That's why his brothers didn't recognize him. Okay, I'm speaking about Yosef. You guys are thinking it's weird. I don't think it's weird to speak about Yosef in the summer. Or Purim, for that matter, which I proved yesterday. Okay, I didn't really finish this topic, but I said a lot about it. I took us to 11 o'clock and I haven't done it yet. Okay, that's crazy. Nobody's saying anything today, so that will save some time. Might get me going again. Nothing. Okay. I'm always happy when you even tune in for a minute. It's really, I appreciate it. If I could summarize in one line, the temptation of Yosef, what would it amount to? In his case, it was a sacrifice to have the energy through encountering that temptation and sublimating it. It led to him having the energy that unfolded in his conquering of the whole world, basically. And find, in particular, through that, because he had to ride the chariot with all his grandeur and beauty, he attracted his Besherta to, out of impossible hopes, you catch the eye of the greatest person. How do you catch the eye of the viceroy of the world? You throw gold. Say, here I am. I'm the only one. I'm the Jewish soul in Ervas Haaretz. You have to see how that's attractive. And YOSEF knew. Can someone look up the source for me? I've never seen it. I've only heard the story, and I made a whole drush on it. So the power for this to unfold, and therefore he has two shvatim that came out of this, unfolded through his ability to overcome the temptation. But there are 10 martyrs, so okay, let's just tie that in a bit. The suffering, their suffering. Okay, I don't know. I don't want to talk about suffering now. That will get me morose. And look at it out here, okay? I know I was pretty intense, but it's like very calm today. It's the calmest day since I've been here. The waves didn't take my Crocs out to the middle of the expanse. It didn't threaten to do that today. It's really calm. I was pretty wild though, because there's a wild topic. It's a very wild topic. Don't you think? Like, who talks about these things? I know Yitzhak Wagner's uncle, I guess. Noam Wagner, Rabbi Noam Wagner from the Rosh Yeshiva of South Africa. He would scream about this in the middle of 770. He says, he screams to his Bachar about Chatas Ne'urim in the middle of 770. You know, it was pretty late, but there's still hundreds of people around screaming about it. Okay, he's not shy. He'll tell the message that he thinks that his people need to hear. If you reach out to an audience, you have to speak their language and speak about things that are relevant to them. I want some Kabbalah insight into the whole Tzaddik Yesod Olam. I'm jealous of people who know Kabbalah. I find it, I know that someone's working on it right now, okay? To translate a very important work. It's a secret project. I don't think I should say more than that or I'm going to get in a lot of trouble. But wouldn't it be nicer to have Kabbalah at our fingertips more? Because it's an impenetrable text. Aramaic's very hard, I find. People that learn a lot of Gemara do much better, probably, with Zohar. You gotta break your head on language. It's all the secrets of the Torah in the language of the Torah. I gave a whole thing, I wrote about it, that God's words are verbatim through the oral Torah. Verbatim. That's precious. Imagine thinking that God's whispering words into your ear, or the Shekhinah's whispering words into your ear, however, I don't know exactly how you're supposed to look at it. Wouldn't that be amazing? The angels can't bear being around Yidden. The Alter Rebbe says, Jews, when they get together, 10 Jews, the angels, when they speak Torah, they can't be there at all. They're obliterated. The cotton should be Yisrael. My baby finger. God says, my children. My baby finger. Burns them up, all accusation. It's all about love of the Jewish people. Finding merit in the Jewish people. So let's help God, so to speak, see merit in his precious. I mean, okay, if you don't like Lord of the Rings, tell me you like the phrase precious. I mean, golem there, it's an interesting word also, golem. That becomes the, what's it called? The antagonist, I guess. The greedy golem that wants the precious. But that term is just aniva deidi li. So we have to come to those words, which are holy, but we only relate to that. If you speak English as a first language, you only relate it to that through your understanding of language. And so my best understanding of that word came through the word precious from that. Beloved doesn't really capture Song of Songs. It's the precious. That's what the pinky finger is of the Jew. The cotton should be Yisrael. That's the precious still, and can destroy any accusation. Don't question the Yerushalayim of my children. Don't question their worthiness of being created. Why should I sacrifice my Yehudi law, my infinite oneness? Why should I sacrifice that by making it appear like there's a creation that's finite? Why should I do that? The angels argue to God. And that's when God says, my precious, my precious, my precious. You know, Golem would always extend his serpentine-like. I think that's the power, I think, that we should harness. It's a meditation maybe more, or a mindset, that you take on this idea of, I am God's precious. Cotton should be Yisrael. Pinky finger burns all accusation. I trust that you're doing L'Shem Shemayim. Even YOSEF, you brought yourself back there. I trust you're doing L'Shem Shemayim. I know that there's consequences for everything we do. Yes. Lo Leinu. Everything should be good for every person in an overt way. Everyone should have blessings in a meaningful way. But there is always an opportunity for us to shed light on the now. On what am I going to do with it now? Here I am. What is that song about the mosquito and libido? Someone's got to type those lyrics for me. Because we're talking about mosquitoes and libidos in the here. People play crazy music. You know, you gotta. So one of the hardest things to do is get the right music for a group of people. There's 5 of us here now. Try and get the right music. Be the right DJ for 5 people. Good luck. Better to sit in silence and listen to the waves, which today are very calming and soothing. I know I don't sound calm. I don't sound calm. I gotta chill out a bit, right? I don't know. I just barely brushed on this topic because I didn't have a chance to click to figure out a way to organize all the sources. You know, it's better with Svarim, I find. I know it looks kind of weird. I see Rabbi Kaplan with all the Svarim. It's incredible. I've never listened to a whole shir of him. Does he really go through all those Svarim? It's amazing. I don't even have a desk that's that big that can handle all those Svarim. I do want sources. Thank you very much. I humbly bow before you in honor of the divinity of helping out in what I think is a worthy project. Is that a nice English blessing? I don't feel comfortable giving blessings in Hebrew or Yiddish so much. It has to be heartfelt. It has to be my language. Some expressions just still elude me. It's just, practice the language, talking. I could translate Yiddish pretty well because I know when I don't know something, and I'll ask people or do research. I don't know. I said some sources. I can't really think of them all right now. What was the main one? Oh, yes, I remember. Tell me who Dinah's daughter was. How in the world did she get to Egypt? Tell me that. Tell me how she got that medallion. Okay, tell me that. I really want to know that. And I pieced these things together. I made a connection that might not be there. If I'm wrong, I'm really sorry. I just really think that this is the story. I think that's what somehow she got to Egypt. Sometimes she had this medallion. Maybe Shimon gave it to her. Why did she get a bull specifically? I don't know. An ox. Yosef's an ox, wasn't he? The horns of an ox, Shane. Someone look that up too. Okay, I'm on my cool down mode. Okay, I've finished performing. So, okay, I'm going to just tell you an interesting thing. Rabbi Wagner told me, I think I said this once, maybe, and maybe not, that, I forget his number, did he say 70% or 80%? Let's go with the 80-20 rule, since I really like Sarah Chana Radcliffe's approach to, and I've just heard different opinions about it last night, but I think she's right. And even if it sounds simplistic, so what if it's true? 80-20 is in the Chumash. What are you talking about? A Chumash, a Chaimesh, Paray, the whole thing, the 1/5, the Meiser, the Chaimesh you're supposed to give is, come on. The 80-20 rule is part of Torah, and besides, there's a 90-10 and a 95-5, which is more important, I think, than the 80-20. So look that up if you don't know what I'm talking about. It's important, very, very important. A spouse relationship is 95 positive, 5 negative, okay? That's the 5% of you could say there's something wrong with, like, sitting around that. Something wrong with that pleasant, calming view. It's not, you could get more spectacular things, I'm sure, but so you do it better if you were God, right? This is where God put me, and I love it. It's awesome. Look. Hear those birds? Hear the waves? I do. Okay, you're not here, so you can maybe like feel some of that calmness that has eluded me, or is like in the background somewhere. Like I could actually be calm. I don't know. I'd rather be excited than calm. I think that's more fun. It's this moments you gotta chill out. Like I agree, but I think just like 5-10 minutes here and there is enough. Then the rest of the time be excited and alive. No, you disagree with me, Yosef. Hey, it's all I spoke about you, Yosef, the great overcomer of temptation. Right? Inspire us. Be someone who loves God. That's the only way. It's okay. Here's the secret. Must be in the first words of this thing that's said in the name of the Alter Rebbe. To do it lishma. Everything's about lishma. Okay, l'shem shemayim. We spoke about Eishes Peit Tefar Bat Tamar, but it started with the whole idea of learning Torah lishma. It's the same idea. Learn Torah lishma. What does that mean? Be the same pleasure you get in understanding your shtusim about whatever it is, basketball or I don't know. At least have the same pleasure in God. At least the same. Make it a battle you could win. Don't put yourself in an environment that you're not going to win. Don't love something so much that you'll never be able to love God as much as that. Then for sure you're wrong. I mean, obviously, the real way to succeed is to totally devote yourself only to God. But I'm trying to say, don't overburden yourself with goals that you think are out of your reach. I think they're in your reach. I'm giving you a sort of an easier, more laid-back vacationer approach to it. How to approach it. Okay, I'm going to try and relax here for a minute. I'm going to be yotzi, relaxing with my people. My people, right? You don't have to sing that song. You sing relax, don't do it. What's the name of that guy? Someone goes to Hollywood. Oh my goodness, he's got a kayak. I'm not allowed to film other people. I'm going to try and respect it because I got my phone broken. I'm going to respect other people's privacy. Not be a weirdo. I'll just report it verbally. Someone is going in a kayak right now into the great blue yonder. Going into that. I think I know why. At least when I'm streaming, it may be inappropriate to just chill out. I think I know why now. Because I saw someone, I removed friends, which I try and curate my exposure, right? So when people are posting weird things, I unfollow. Or if it's anything to do with different religions, I'm out of there completely. Don't tell me about other religions. You're gone. Why? Because I think it's a lie. That's why. You don't like that, so don't listen to me. Okay, I got sidetracked there. I was saying something. Oh yeah. So the reason why I don't like to just chill out, because then what am I doing? I'm showing, here is my ugly beard, and this is what I want you to see, or here is my beautiful whatever, and here is what I want you to see. So some people do that. You see, girls have this tremendous power they can attract, right? So they might want to say, here's my face from different angles, and they go like this, and that is, to me, so bizarre. But it's okay. If there's no God, that's a really worthy thing to do. But it just happens to be that there is. So it becomes more weird when you know that. But if you don't know that, I don't judge this person. Believe me, I don't. I'm just saying it's not for me, and I don't want exposure to it. So when I saw that, unfollow. So I don't want to be sitting here in a calm state, because what am I doing? I'm showing my face. It's pathetic. So I doubt could come out here. I don't roll my beard up, even though I probably would. If I was in any public environment, I probably would. But I want to not care. I don't want to be one of those girls that how embarrassing is that? Okay, in their world, it's good. It's great. It's my fault for not reaching out to people around me more, to know what's inappropriate, what's inappropriate. So you got to curate your exposure. That's the whole thing of YOSEF. He knew what he could handle, and he knew what his intent was, and he knew what he was trying to accomplish, and it brought goodness into the world. He became a Roy Yisrael. But it's not for everybody. How many YOSEF tzaddiks are there? We have our mission, we have our thing. And we got to try and stay focused and take in that energy. Here's the solar energy, whatever it takes to fuel ourselves, to make ourselves confident enough to take on the world and say, I am going to laugh. And someone told me this morning that when Monday Futter Fast woke up in the morning, he would say, in that order. I don't believe that story, but it's very funny. I don't believe he would say anything before Madayani. How do you say Baruch before Ata? Makes no sense. The whole davening is Baruch Ata. All your blessings in the morning, 100 blessings you're supposed to say every day. It's all Baruch Ata. Makes no sense. Who are you to tell God, Baruch, come down into this world? Ata. Then I recognize you. After I've sort of imposed myself on the Creator himself, the Infinite One, telling him what to do. Baruch, you come down here. Baruch means knees. It's submit yourself. I'm asking God, bring yourself down to me. Who am I to tell God? Then it's Ato. Then I realize, it's only you. I'm gone. There's no me anymore. But I told you what to do first. So what is the ineffable before the Baruch? Nitzchuni banai nitzchuni. God wants us to be victorious. The whole fabric of the world is a matrix that's, what's it called? It's rigged. It's a lottery, rigged in our favor. Rigged for us to bring Mashiach to it. It's rigged for that. What was I just talking about? Oh my goodness, I haven't finished the thought. No one's going to type it for me? 5 of you. Come on, help me out. For bring-ins, people get people to remind them what train they were riding. Okay, that's not going to remember that, but okay. Maybe it was a complete thought. I know I was speaking about the vanity of just not saying anything. Okay. You've been riding a lot of trains today. Yeah, okay. You can't tell me what I was talking about either. We're all multitasking, right? And who wouldn't? Who has time to just listen to one voice? Don't. Do a million things at once. Do a million things. Except when you're learning Torah B'Iyun. Or, I don't know, something really important like that. Always be active. Okay, maybe I'll type the thought if I come back to it and remember what it was. Okay, I'm going to get going. There's morning prayers that call me. Okay, guys. Have a great day, everybody.